Finally, after 5 whole years, the latest story expansion of Star Wars The Old Republic, Legacy of the Sith has been concluded. Sort of. Darth Malgus has been a thorn in the galaxy for a long time, even longer than my time in university. With his ultimate plan being a mystery until the very end, was to awaken the Force in every living conscious being in the galaxy so that they can break free from their chains, particularly from the power dynamic of the Jedi and Sith, and indeed it may very well upset the balance of power throughout the Star Wars galaxy. What happens in the Sith Empire, where once only those who inherited a force sensitivity from their parents could potentially be trained in the academies of Horban and rise through the ranks of the Sith and reign supreme over all, commanding and lording over others who cannot call upon the Force so easily. I've also discussed why marrying a Sith as a non-Force sensitive is a poor choice for many in the Empire. Suddenly granting everyone a level of Force sensitivity would definitely shift this power dynamic a little bit too. In the Republic, while the Jedi do not have dictatorial powers, the common folk have little to no knowledge of what really goes on within the Order. With widespread Force sensitivity, the secrets of the Order they put so much effort to keep away from the public eye can now be privy into, or at least that's the working theory that Malgus has. By supplying the wider population with the means to access the Force, they can break free from their shackles. A master no longer has hold over his slave. A abusive spouse no longer binds his partner, and so on. It'll be tempting to let him complete his plan and give free access to the Force for all. But I personally think that is a terrible idea, and let's take a step back to figure out why. Awakening the Force in all living beings in the galaxy is like priming a whole bunch of fresh nuclear power plants at the same time. Potent, yes. You can harness so much energy that could potentially power whole societies for lifetimes, even more. But the consequences of messing up is just as devastating. Nuclear fallout, radioactive environments for years, people suffering for decades to come. And even if you give access to the Force to countless beings, honestly, what are they supposed to do with it? Think about a farmer on Tatooine. All he does is just hard labor. Perhaps he can learn some telekinetic abilities to help him. The adoption of the Force into the galaxy-wide conscience will take years, decades, even centuries. Just as in real life, our society took years to adopt electricity, computers, and now AI tools. Now our society has so much access to AI tools to allow us to build software, but honestly, a large portion of those aren't even used by anyone. And many of us still have to learn where to correctly use it. And in some cases, there are not even a proper use case for AI that is viable at the moment. Hell, there's even a concern that what if one day we just run out of electricity, computers, or AI? How would we actually function as a society? The Force very much functions in the same way. Jedi and Sith aren't born, they are trained, and they fulfill a very, very specific function in society. First, they learn how to actually feel the Force, centering oneself, listening and connecting with all life around them. Then comes actually mastering the basic abilities, and so on. This can be equally true about almost every superpowered species in fiction. Kryptonians, Viltrumites, whatnot. Power, whether you're born with it or acquire it later in life, it still takes time to master it. Then, the application of the Force, or the application of whatever powers you have. Meditating, using it to help the poor, or using it for combat. Then, the question comes, what happens when you take away a Jedi or Sith's connection to the Force? Will they still survive, or will they drop dead at their feet? But to be fair to Malgus, I don't think he has really placed that much thought into whether his plan will actually work, kinda like the fatal flaw of MCU Thanos' plan. Why not you just double the amount of resources instead of wiping out half of everyone? I would say that players' plan to cut the galaxy off from the Force makes more sense in that regard, if someone really wanted everyone in the galaxy to break free. What happens when a person has nothing? That is a true test of character. It exposes his true nature, how he responds in the face of adversity, not when he has everything. Giving everyone that kind of power and that access to the Force is not a liberation, but a prison in of itself. it becomes a drug that many would love to partake in. And Malgus in particular, he claims that he's breaking his chains, but we take a look into his inner psyche in the latest expansion, and we see that he's just merely trading it for another prison in his own mind. And that's the ultimate flaw of his goals. In the Star Wars galaxy, if everyone has access to the Force, all of a sudden, I don't think anyone will learn to live as they are, but rather will learn to rely on the Force as a means to an end, and it will actually turn society into shambles. It is a fact that there are some homogeneous societies within the Star Wars universe, like the Mirror Looker, who have learned to survive with the Force. But it is innate in their society. This sudden burst of Force sensitivity within the galaxy will be a form of chaos that does not actually give anyone freedom, but rather becomes an existential problem that everyone must solve. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, if you would like to see more things related to Star Wars, the Old Republic, do check out the rest of my channel. Cheers!